Welcome back to another episode of Your Mental Health Matters. Celebrating the season of joy, we're here to talk about joy in play, and particularly the importance of play, not only for children, but also adults as well.
So important.
Yeah.
And look at how playful Joni
We gotta
looks
have fun.
today.
I'm all dressed up for Christmas.
Christmas
Ready for it?
season, celebrating, that's what we need to do. We all need to be a little bit more playful, right?
And especially in this season of busyness, buying gifts, all the hustle and bustle, it's important in every season, but especially in this season, to take a pause and make sure we're having that time for each other every day. Because play, as I said, is not just something for adults and children together, right? We need to be able to both be doing that. And I think in today's episodes, we're going to unpack some practical ways of how we can engage with our children and support them in play, as well as us as adults, how we can make sure we're carving out time in our schedule. As in this, even last couple years, in season of busyness, and last time we talked about stress and anxiety in those different areas.
So true.
Play is one of those main interventions that we can all use to support ourselves, regulate, relax, and really promote positive mental health.
And the funny thing is, it's so simplistic, and yet we forget about it. And it's sometimes hard to play because we're so caught up in our day and our routines, we forget how to play.
That's very true.
So we need to learn from our children as well, I think.
Yep. And remember that play is fun and it helps us engage a little bit more in our work.
Absolutely. And going back to what we talked about last time, we talked about you can engage in play if you do not feel safe. So if you have a sense of safety, your anxiety goes down. You're feeling readiness to engage in comfort and connection, which every person on the planet needs.
Yeah, it's so true. And I have the privilege of working with a lot of parents, and often as parents, I'm a parent of 3 young children. We don't have a lot of time, for the things we used to have time for in terms of taking care of our mental health. But an amazing gift, if you do have children or nieces, nephews, etc., is we can make time to play every day, even in the busyness of our schedules.
And I think the question is but why? Why do we need to make time for play?
Exactly.
Why is it so important, and why are we bringing this up as a group? Because we've talked about many subjects over the last year, this year, but why play? Why are we honing in on play? Right? That's
Well, it's exciting that we have an expert here on play.
I'm like looking
Right.
over.
Looking at me.
Joni has a lot of experience doing play therapy and is also passionate about incorporating play for both children and adults. So tell us, Joni, a little bit from your perspective, why play is so important and why it's something we both as children and adults have to engage in every day.
Yeah. Well, I think you said it like you just said. It brings down that feeling of tenseness and stress, and it just kind of helps us relax a little bit. And I find with kids, it's their language. Like play is the way that they communicate. If you look at their development, they can't really do that talk therapy because they don't have the cognitive ability to like verbalize certain things. So play is the way that they communicate that. Especially in my play therapy, I find that I can communicate with them a lot easier through play.
Because you're trained in interpreting the play and navigating the play in order for you to seek understanding of their world.
Yeah.
Right? And you're able to draw conclusions based on how they're playing and how they're interacting with you. It's not just straight play that's just, it could go anywhere. You're usually, even if it's non-directional, you're still learning something from them in their play. Because they're communicating something.
Exactly.
That they may not have had the words or understand the words to communicate.
Yeah.
Us as adults, we may not have the words to communicate, right? So it's...
Yep, and it helps them process things. So if they're experiencing something and they just don't know how to process it, they'll play it out.
Right.
And some parents will probably notice that in their own children when they're just playing on their own. We were like looking at something the other day, and then it just comes out in their play, and it's just amazing how you just see it.
It's more organic. It's not forced, and they're able to tell you so much without actually saying a single word.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so neat to even watch my children play it out. They've got their dolls and they're playing, house, they're playing this or that, and neat to hear those themes that are coming up from the days of what's going on for them, right?
Yes, because they're processing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's so good, and I think just that awareness as parents and as educators is so helpful of how we can kind of create that space for Dr. Gordon Neufeld. He talks about this, of things that are not outcome-based. So we're not doing it for a particular reason. He talks about it also being expressive.
Yeah.
So it's not just kind of sitting, watching a screen or doing things, but really, truly, authentically engaging in that.
Right.
As well as it's just for fun.
Kids can sense if it's not authentic. Kids can feel it. They know if you have an agenda.
Yeah.
But straight up play, just on its own, and just enjoy wherever the child brings you, they know they're connecting. It's about connection,
Yep.
right? You
And I
don't
was
have
going
that
to say,
connection.
sometimes I'll have that agenda in the back of my mind,
Mhm.
but I'll never force it. I'll just kind of see where it goes and like plug in where I can
Right.
and have that like connection with them. And I think that's where I need to go with them, because if I don't have that rapport, I'm not going to get anywhere.
You're not.
It's such an important thing to keep in the back of my mind. You know, I'm a teacher and I like to teach my children things. So we're doing apps and we're doing learning. We just got the Osmo, so we're having fun with that little early Christmas gift, right? But as much as and important as learning is, and structure and predictability, it's also really important for me as someone who's more of a ENFJ type person. I like to have structure and things a certain way. My
Right.
wife, play comes very naturally to her.
Does
That's
it?
the type of person
Okay.
she is. Her
So she's
personality
bringing
type
you
is
to be playful.
ENFP.
Okay.
So that's where she lives. So she's working on one side of things where for me, I have to be intentional that I'm not kind of being overly scheduled or structured sometimes in spending time with my children,
Yeah.
as important as learning and some of those other areas are.
Yeah.
Really being intentional of not always just having the goals of learning or doing this
Yes.
for that reason or that for that
Mhm.
reason.
Yeah.
You know, and it's interesting, even video games are kind of designed with an outcome. So even if it's not learning,
That's
sometimes
true.
there's so many things
Yep.
not only in our environment as adults, but
Yeah.
also as children, as kind of a means to an end.
It's true.
There's always kind of a goal we're working towards. So creating those spaces for ourselves every day
Yeah.
to have that expressive, not outcome based, just for fun play, I think is so important.
Yep, and I try to do that with my kids. Like,
Yeah.
I have two kids, one's 7 and one is 11. So I try to make individual time for them, and we call it you me time.
Mhm.
And what we do is I set the timer for 10 minutes, because they would take me for half an hour to an hour.
Of
I didn't set
course
the
they
timer. So I set their timer, and that is their time. They have the control. They can like design the game. This is what we're going to play with. That's how we're going to do it, and I just follow their lead.
Right.
Because that's my job. I do that all the time. But I like to do it with
Yes.
my own kids. It's just that special time, and I know how important it is
It is really
to give them
important.
that space.
Yeah, and the thing is we're saying play and we're making it seem so simple. It is so simple, but it is very hard for us to structure. Use that was structured into your day, right? So
Mhm.
I know for myself, speaking of an example for myself, and Joel, I shared this with you on another, I don't know if it was a podcast or some kind of group thing we did before. I was really frazzled one day. My kids were really young. I have 5 kids. So, just for that reason alone, I should be able to just stop there and you go, oh, okay. But I have 5 kids and they were really young, and I came home from work and the music was loud. The house was a disaster. There's dishes everywhere. I just came from work and I'm feeling, oh, I'm so exhausted. I got to clean my house, and I'm in front of my dishes and I'm doing them and I'm like, I'm getting myself all worked up thinking about the mess in my house and how my entire family is home and I have to do the work. And then all of a sudden, I hear the music get louder. I'm like, okay, that's enough. So I put down my towel and I turn around and I'm ready to give it to whomever's there. Picture this: 5 kids all in a row with my 6'3" husband right beside, all doing the same dance in unison. Jump on It is called. I don't know if you've ever seen Will
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Jump on It. So they're all doing that in unison.
Yeah.
And I mean, my husband's a big burly guy. You do not expect play out of a man like this. But he was having fun with them. And I had 2 choices. I could get upset and say, why aren't the dishes done? Or I could keep the towel down on the table and go join them.
Yeah.
I joined them, and immediately something in me shifted.
Mm-hmm.
I shifted from anger and frustration to play. And I felt safe, and I felt the kids felt safe. And it was such an example in my life of, I have to use that more often.
Yeah.
I can't go to my go-to structure needs. Everything has to be done. Everything has to have a box and ticked.
Yes.
We need time for play, because everyone's moods changed after that. And guess what happened? They were wanting to help me after and connect and get things organized in the house after I gave them the playtime.
Mhm.
So it worked out anyway, but they had more control over it,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah, if you think of the Plato, the ancient philosopher, he
Mhm.
says, life must be lived as play.
right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you're talking about 2 powerful principles there. There's the structure and the spontaneous.
Right.
So to go back for what you're saying there, Joni, the structure part, is there a certain time of night that you plan that? Because, a good idea without a plan is just wishful thinking. It's probably not going to happen.
I like that. Good idea.
And that's pretty much for
Uh-huh.
all of us. We all have aspirations of wanting to play and connect with our kids, but dishes, busy schedules,
Yep.
all the things we have to do around the house, maybe work emails, phones, texts, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
They all kind of pile up and
They do.
sometimes can inhibit that. So the big rock of structuring that and both you knowing and your children knowing this time is going to happen is so key. So
Yeah.
tell me a bit more about how you structure that.
There
how
are
you
days,
develop that.
I'll admit, there are days that it gets
Totally.
missed.
Yeah.
So when it gets missed, they know the importance of it, and we'll
Yeah.
plan it for like,
Mhm.
okay, we'll do half hour on the weekend,
Okay.
and
so
they'll get that time.
How
And
did
then
you
you won't
set
do
it
it.
up? Like, how did you plan for, okay, this is
Yeah.
the time, you know, for yourself and for your kids?
I just talked to them. I said, "What do you think? Do you think this is a good idea?"
Yeah.
So you gave them choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
And they
then,
pick the time?
we worked it out around their schedule. So you have scouts at this time. Like,
Great.
when can we do it?
Mm.
What would happen if you didn't do it? Would they get really upset and feel disappointed?
Well, I notice when we miss it because their behavior starts to spike.
And I
I'm
think
like,
that's an
"Oh,
important part for
that's
parents to hear,
What's happening?
Right.
right? Their behavior would spike when they missed it. Why? In your opinion?
They're not getting the connection with
not
that
getting
they-
the connection.
So they're
Mhm.
seeking that in a negative way. now.
Exactly, parents. You need to hear that. They will seek it out in a negative way if they don't get that connection. So you were being proactive by doing that.
Mhm, yeah.
Brilliant.
Trying.
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely.
I can definitely think of that for my kids too. You know, there's the idea of sometimes difficult behaviors or challenging behaviors, but a lot of them often are connection seeking.
Yes, they
Yeah.
are.
They are wanting or
Yes.
seeking that connection or that
Yeah.
attention
Yeah.
from mom or dad, whether it's positive or negative attention, right?
Yeah.
So I love that idea, and I think just as a practical take home for all of us, setting that time. You know, for me, it's when I get home from work. My kids are younger, so they go to bed early. But when
Right.
I'm home from work, I'm not on my computer.
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything. I'm honed in on my kids. That's true. Some days you miss it. Some days I'm really busy with doing the dishes, cleaning the house, and some of those other things. But as much as possible, I like to try to take that time, whether it be right before dinner or after dinner, just to hang out and connect and have some fun with them that way.
Mhm.
The kids look forward to that and just know that's the time. And I think parents, especially as children get older, it's
Yes.
important to develop those routines. And you might have a
Sure is.
teenager and you're like,
Uh-huh.
okay, is this even possible? And I've many
It
parents
is.
ask me, okay, like, can we even expect that?
It is, but it has to
It
be on
is.
their terms.
Yeah.
Their terms. And
Mhm.
as they get older, I've said this in many different podcasts. It's going to be later at night, so you're sitting there with your eyes squinted and you're exhausted. You got to put your game face on and listen to
Yeah.
your child. This is play. This is connection. There's a reason because your systems become in sync when you start
Mhm.
talking to someone. And if you're looking at your nervous system that's activated, and this happened, and this happened, and you're telling your day,
Yeah.
you're getting more activated. But if you're talking to a parent who's either engaging in play because they're younger and they don't have the language, or you're talking to a teenager and you're giving them a place to connect, the end result is the same. Safety, security, and feeling like they connect with a parent makes them be regulated.
Yeah.
And then they're able to do the things they need to do and problem solve.
So good. I'm a
Right.
structured person, so I do recommend this. It sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. But even, 5 minutes around dinner time, having your kids,
Yes.
if have that schedule, that routine, say, let's just connect for a couple minutes. Maybe it's playing some ping pong, or
Yeah.
we talked about video games not necessarily being the ideal play,
Right.
but sometimes you can take what a
It's-
teenager gives you, right?
Exactly, it's connection.
So having that time where you're just connecting, doing something fun, card game, whatever it is, it doesn't have to be long.
Right.
The teenager picks the time.
Yep.
They pick the activity, but maybe 5 minutes a day or something small of just that play and connect time. And my thought to the two of you is we've talked a bit about what play looks like for children. What does that play look like for teens? How does it change and ebb and flow over time? Because I think us as parents adjusting our expectations and our understanding of play
Yeah.
can be key to continue to journey with our teenagers. Because one might think, well, maybe the teen doesn't want to play. They just want to hang out with their friends or be on Snapchat or social media or whatever it might be. How do we continue play on through those teen
Well, you have
years?
to be an investigator. Sorry, I feel like my back is turned. I'm doing a lot of this. You have to be, I know, I have a little bit of whiplash happening. You have to be an investigator. You have to find out what your child likes. You may not know it. You may not understand it. Tell me more. Sound like you're interested in it. Learn more. Maybe you have to feign enthusiasm a little bit. And then maybe you will get some interest in it once you learn more about it, right? But if you don't seek out the things that they are drawn to, they're going to see you as someone they can't connect with about it.
Right.
So
And I
tell
was
me
going
more.
to say, approach it with curiosity.
Yes.
Just say,
yes.
like, what is there something that you would like to do with just me?
Exactly. Ask the
Or is
questions.
there something you want to show me? Like, be interested in whatever they're interested in.
Yes.
You'll get there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Because it means a lot.
Yeah.
You want to feel heard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So good. A close friend of mine, he has adult kids now, so I'd like to get some parenting tips from him. You know, and Mel, you could probably speak this as well. I know, Joni, your kids are getting to that age as well. Just journeying with them in their passions and interests. And
Yes.
sometimes it is just showing up. You know, it's building that
Yeah.
rapport of showing up to their events or hobbies or activities, and
Exactly.
really being able to even engage or practice with them or learn more about them together.
Right.
So I think we kind of go from being the leader in play or giving the ideas to the follower or partner in play, where the child's really taking the lead / teenager, and we're kind of following the flow of what they're
Partner
giving
in
us.
Play.
Yeah.
I like that. I think I'm going to use that because you're right. When they're younger, you tend to lead it. Well, you lead in starting and getting the structure, and you like you said,
Instigate it.
Set up the
know?
timer and get them
Yeah, get them
going. And then
going.
when they start, you can follow their lead a little bit
More
more.
their
Yeah.
terms when they get older, and it is important. And then as adults, why is play so important to adults?
Right.
Right.
Yes.
Does anyone want to talk about the neuroscience behind that?
I'd love to hear thoughts on that.
Well, I think when you think of play, again, we're going back to what we talked about last week and being anxious, unsafe, dysregulated. Your nervous system, if it's feeling there's a threat, it's going to go into that hypervigilant, cueing the environment, seeing if I'm safe, looking for the cues. If you all of a sudden are engaged in play, it kind of contradicts that feeling. So you're actually going, am I safe? Can I be safe? Can I play? Can I laugh? If I have the ability to laugh and be okay, that must mean that I'm reading all the cues and it's safe. I'm safe to do so. So it happens with adults as well. We need in our system our alarm clock, as I've called it before to you, that we have to feel that everything around us is okay. That's why people will joke when they're together. Adults will make jokes and they get a connection right away when they make a joke
They
with
use
someone.
humor. Yeah.
So why is that, right? Because it settles our system down. Because we're feeling anxious about something and calms us down. We make a joke. So playfulness is good in our work, in our home life, in our families, and it just helps us regulate our systems internally, literally.
It's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good, Mel. We kind of know and think, yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
I'd like to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But why don't we? What do you find are the barriers that prevent us from engaging in play and just creating space for that in our daily life?
Well, there's different reasons. What do you think, Joni?
First thing that comes to mind is just work restraints
Yeah.
and time.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, like you say, if you carve out the time, it might happen more.
And it's hard to be authentic when you have 20 million things on your plate and you're worried and you're stressed and you know you need your time for your kids, but you know you can't get past your own stress, right? You're stressed yourself. So sometimes you have to know when you have to say not tonight as well. But if you're giving your child regular scheduled play times, you have to make sure to follow it up to make sure you come forward with it another time and play with them another time. So you do have to read your own system because we are co-regulating. We as three adults are co-regulating right now. We're regulating our systems as we're sitting here. If I was really super animated, that could hype you two up, right? You do that with your kids all the time. We co-regulate with them. So we have to make sure that our system is before we engage.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe playfulness will help our system grow,
Yeah.
So it's helpful.
Yeah, it's so important. And sometimes, I've thought in the past, and I'm sure we all do, sometimes I'm too tired to play.
Oh,
I'm
all
kind of
the time.
exhausted at the end of the night. Just want to maybe have a drink or watch
Yeah.
a show or just do whatever I can do just to chill and relax.
Exactly.
And there's value in some of those things.
Sure.
A main thing is if they're not expressive or they're a bit more outcome based, there's not kind of this connection that we're able to get from it. Even the difference between me sitting down and watching a 20-minute show versus watching a show with my wife that's kind of fun that we talk about and engage with, even though that's not quote quote expressive, us watching that show together,
Right.
there's something different, or there's a different dynamic and energy when we're doing it together, hanging out, connecting, even if it's through the context of watching a show.
Right.
So I just want to encourage everyone too. It doesn't have to be having 2 hours of play at night
No.
and doing all these activities, but
Right.
how do we even tweak our routines or the activities we're doing now to be a bit more expressive, a bit more engaging, a bit more play-based, perhaps?
You have to be self-aware. You have to ask the questions to your kids, and you have to ask the tough questions to yourself. What do I need to get out of this? What are my children needing? What can we do to become more connected? And then taking the time to do it. So you have to be purposeful in your actions. You can't just let it happen. I was going to say not happen organically. You want it to happen organically, but you actually have to put some Well, you have to put some effort into it. You have to
Yeah.
actually plan it out. And I think if you talk to your kids, they'll hold you accountable.
Yeah.
Which is what we need as adults
Yeah.
sometimes. We know we got to be at soccer at 7, so we'll be there because other adults are holding us accountable and our kids. But sometimes play, we can just go, another day, I'm too tired.
Mhm.
And that gets really easy.
Yeah.
I think kids will be
A full strategy I do at nighttime with the kids is called high-low buffalo.
Oh,
Cool.
And we
tell
talk
us
like
more.
it's kind of like
Yeah.
a tuck-in thing that I do, and I say like, "What? Tell me your high-low buffalo for today." And their high, of course, is something that they enjoy, something positive that they like throughout the day, or something that they want to show me, or it's just something they're proud of.
Right.
A low is just something that happened that they're sad about, or something that they want to, kind of engage with. That's a good check-in to have, and then they can talk to me about anything at nighttime. And then their buffalo is something that they want to remember, or just a cool fact that they learned.
That is a
Yeah.
cool way to end the night. High, low, buffalo. Why buffalo?
Just rhymes.
Oh, okay. I was looking for
I read
some
it.
really deep thing.
I read it somewhere
Neat.
over like during COVID, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna do that, and I started doing it, and it's so neat. I love it.
So a lot of the things you do in your professional life, you practice in your personal life
Yeah.
because it works.
Yeah.
Because it works.
hmm
It's not just
I
you're
take
not
those tips and put them
Yeah.
in practice.
exactly. So it's purposeful. You're thinking this way because you're shaping your children and you're shaping how they are going to respond to you. So it is really important that you take the time to do these things and forgive yourself a night if you have to take it off.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds a lot like Circle of Security there.
Doesn't it?
Yeah,
Right? I was
yeah,
wondering if it
that's
was
what
going
I
to
was
segue
thinking.
into that. Right. So Circle Security is such a great way. I mean, Joni, you and I are both trained. Joel, did you ever get trained in Circle?
I'm not trained, but I'm a huge fan.
You know a lot. You've heard a
Yes,
lot of
I love
Chantal and I
it.
talking about
Yes.
it last year as
Yeah.
well. Yeah, and that's to do with attachment and
Mhm.
parenting.
Yeah.
Joni, do you want to give a little bit more information about Circle? Are you doing any groups right now?
Not this year yet. I think the other counselors are now trained, so they're offering it within their school. So they're trying to kind of branch out a little bit in the
Amazing.
district and
Okay.
free up my time because I'm now doing the counselor meetings and stuff. So
Right.
Mm.
So for Circle Security, should I give a little
Yeah,
bit
at
of
a high
a
level, just for parents to understand.
just very quickly, we won't go into a large part of it, but it's helping parents understand their kids' communication, understanding when they're miscuing you through behavior that they're actually wanting connection, much like we talked about.
Mhm.
Behavior increases when they're not getting the connection. If you understand what your children are trying to cue you, you could respond properly or appropriately to it. But you also got to have self-awareness and how to know how you're impacted by it. They call it the shark music. So the shark music is when something comes up in your child's life and it immediately causes you, as I would say, go into my emotional brain. So you're reactive, you get more angry at your child, or you say something and you're responding out of your own feeling, not from what your child is bringing to you in the moment. So Circle Security helps parents understand how their children are trying to communicate to them, giving them the freedom to explore with confidence
Mhm.
and look back and say, Mom, Dad, am I okay? And you're like, yes, you're good. So they feel comfortable and safe to explore and then come back in to Mom and Dad, but also to be firm and fair. So knowing the difference in talking to your children when you have to be firm and fair versus when you need to be giving them some freedom to explore their world and to feel
Mhm.
safe in it.
So in a nutshell, developing that attachment with them and building relationships and connection and how to respond in certain situations, giving them
Exactly.
support.
Because, sorry, go ahead, John.
No, I was going to say very practically, and play is a huge part of that.
It is.
Being able to go out, explore, and have the freedom to do that
Yes.
while developing relationship and attachment through that.
And if you look at it through, we hear a lot lately about why are children more anxious? They may not have opportunities for play. They may not have opportunities to run on the street, under the street lamps and problem solve, conflict resolve things, interact, make decisions in the moment based off of the scenario that happens. They are learning so much and their little brains are developing so much through their play they used to do outside. But we have such cold temperatures in our winter. Our children are home. They're on video games. We're trying to do what we can to support them through soccer and other things. But play helps them learn to navigate life. And we need to give them as many opportunities as possible.
Yep, think of it as a practice run.
Yes. It's a practice run for life. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got some really good nuggets this time. We practice run. What did you say? You said partner in
Play, and then we talked about
play.
the importance of having it both planned and
Yes.
spontaneous. So that's where I kind of want to land on. So for the adult-child relationship, supporting our children, how do we grow and play in that area, and even the adult relationship, whether it be for ourselves or our partners or whoever's with us in the home, the adult-to-adult play, friends as well. Because I know at night after our kids go to bed, sometimes I just want to chill or rest or do my own thing, or vice versa with my wife as well. But creating that space for play, even if it's short, even if we're tired, is very important too. So as a takeaway, we'll start with the child piece of what we want to do and that side of things for ourselves or families, and then the takeaway for the adult piece too.
Do you think of something you want to say about from the takeaway for yourself?
I mean, Jolene's already doing it all. She's inspired
She really is. Okay,
Yeah.
those ideas.
let us. Okay.
No, well, I was just kind of going to think
Child play.
like my oldest is into robotics now. So as you were thinking, like, we don't really understand a lot of those things that come up when they're older, but I'm supporting them being there. Like I'm going on a trip this weekend with the robotics. I don't necessarily understand it all, but I'm there and I'm supporting and I'm trying to have fun with him, cheering him on.
See, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So as for your child, you're finding ways of supporting. So what about you and your husband
Yeah.
as an adult or a friend? Do you have anything you're doing to incorporate play that way?
I think we're like, I love the idea of like watching shows more together. Like,
Yeah.
you know, we have our own interests, but like that joint interest. Like we used to go for hikes a lot. So like now it's so cold. Try to do that a little bit more. I guess.
Yeah. So connecting, right?
Yeah, just
Yeah.
doing things that we both enjoy.
And for myself, I think I keep coming back to, because my kids, my youngest is 19. I have 19, two 21-year-olds, 22-year-old, and a 23-year-old. So they're getting up there in age,
Yeah.
but play is still important. And we joke all around all the time. We have so much humor in our home, and we constantly use it. But when I'm talking connection and play, purposeful, I've been asking my youngest son, who's 19, about how much he loves singing, being on his guitar, and listening to. He listens to really heavy music. Joy, remember me talking about it?
Yeah.
Like death metal, and
Right.
it's really, really hard to be authentic listening to death metal. It really is. But I've listened to it and I've asked him why, and he's
Yeah.
told me the poetry behind it,
Neat.
and I connected to that. So, and then I bring it back to my husband and I talk to him about it so that we have a better understanding. So, connection for both my husband and I, listening to his music and him playing his song. It's still really cool.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
cool.
awesome.
How about yourself?
Well, one thing I've been learning is every one of our children is different.
Mhm.
So my oldest loves learning, and she can just engage for hours in that. But the youngest does as well, but she has different areas of passion and joy, and she's a bit more like my wife, just fun, goofy, etc.
Right.
So I'm trying to learn the different play languages or play styles of each of my children.
Really? That's
No.
pretty cool.
Right? Yeah, I'm still
Yeah.
learning. I have lots to
That's
learn.
impressive.
So just understanding how I might approach one child with play might look different than the other child.
Oh, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's important.
Yeah. And I think regarding myself, my wife, I'm a big quality time person. You know, play even ties into those 5 love languages.
It sure does.
You know, the
Yes.
time, the ways we connect and enjoy life together. And so
Yeah.
quality time is a huge part of it for me.
Yeah.
So recently, my wife and I have been pretty busy, having 3
Mhm.
young kids and just other things going
Imagine
on.
why.
Right?
Yeah.
And we found our evenings being a little bit more busy. So I find sometimes, of course, in a good way, I rely on connecting with her as a way of playing, connecting, etc.
Right.
But if she's not around, sometimes I feel like, oh, I should work, or I should work out, or I should do some other things.
Yeah.
I'm actually learning also sometimes when other people are not around, giving myself permission to play. Of course, it looks a little different,
Yeah.
you know, when
Yeah.
it's not with other people. But just having that reflective time, I'm not doing something that's outcome based or a purpose. And just being intentional that if my wife is busy, I'm not going to go through the night maybe just watching a show or doing some work or what have you, because the next day I'm still drained. So I really have to dial into every day
Yes.
what, even for a short amount of time, is something that I can do that's just play or enjoyable for myself.
I love that. If we could just finish that, that could
That's
be the
a
end
good
of it.
point. Like filling your cup.
Filling your cup, that's it. Play will fill your cup so you're not going the next day depleted.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. I think that says it all. And we really, that's what we want our listeners to hear as well, is you have to do what's best for you and your children, and play is number one thing. It's no magic. It's just being who you are with your kids.
Yeah.
Because,
Your mental health matters.
yes.